cut to this con. All right, thank you so much for joining us today. Today we're advancing our conversation and we want to talk more about the breakdown from features to epics, epics to stories, stories to task, and tasks to subtask. And the quick question that we have today is, how do I know that this epic, this is an epic? Or, okay, if I break this epic down, it will lead into 10 stories. And these 10 stories, it will be 10,000 tasks or 5 subtasks that will be under it. So that representatively in Jira, I'll be able to know what issue to select right ahead when I'm doing that. We all agree when we started, and I don't I want to ask if you remember, we say the features of a user story, and we have this acronym that we call invest. If you can remember that, invest, we have an acronym we call invest. I hope you can see my screen, please. Confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
The first point under invest is that it is independent. Independent. The second one is that the characteristic of a user story means it must be negotiable. Let me change this. Negotiable. Just a moment. Yeah, I means independent. Number 2 means it is negotiable. Negotiable. Number 3, the V means it is valuable. Number 4 means it is estimated. So that will help me to define the concept. And then small. And then the last one says it is testable. It is testable. So when you look at this feature, the first thing that should come to your mind is that the user story is an estimation. Now, if I have a huge project I want to achieve, just like we said earlier, you can divide those projects into epics and say, okay, we have 4 different modules that would come to this. Let me give us an example. I want to work on a project that transfers money. One epic can be the member-facing part. That's the customer-facing part. Another epic can be the developer-facing part. That's the back end. The other part can be a portal part, which is a web-based platform.
Hello, can you? Sorry, sir. Can you come back? Okay. We've explained the characteristic of the user story.
Okay.
So, are we talking about the characteristic of epic right now, sir?
Yes. I just list the characteristic of user story to make you understand that it's an estimated quantity. But I want to start from breaking down an epic to a story so that you would understand the sequence of how it can be broken down into a task and a subtask. Now, so I have a huge project. I want to develop a solution. In that solution, I want the customer to have an application and I want them to be able to log in online. I can say the member app part is an epic. The portal part, which is the web portal part, is another epic. I can say the part that will be facing the supplier or maybe the business unit, that's the cooperative society. That part that will be facing them is also another epic. So the part where the developer guys will log in and do all those things, that's another region on its own. So if you look at all those individual huge part of the project, those are epics. Now, if I pick one epic and I say the web portal part of my development project, that single part, I cannot break it down into many stories. Is that okay? Now you get one, we pick one. So my whole project, I divide it into 5 modules, just like an epic. I now pick one of the epic. I now want to break them down into what the team can finish within 2 to 3 weeks. So the reason why a story is small, is testable, is estimated, is it must be what can be finished and is an independent quantity which can be negotiated, is also valuable, but it must be finishable within one sprint. That's usually the idea of a user story. And that is why anytime we put a story in a sprint, our goal is to complete all those stories within that sprint. However, we've seen scenarios where stories have to span 2-3 sprints before we're able to complete it. Those are understandable. We either agree that we had a poor estimation, or along the line, maybe we had some blockers, or we have some dependencies that we're not able to resolve quickly. So usually,
sorry, before you move forward, sir. So from my understanding, in software development right now, seems the way you have seems to be broken into like 4 or 5 categories. So you have the business supplier side, which is our part as, for example, Ministry of Trade. Then you have the customer facing side. That's the for example, if you use the same example of the Ministry of Trade, that's the part of the cooperatives and what they have to do at that regard. So what's the third one? Because
customer facing.
Yes, I've seen customer facing now. I've seen the business, that's the supplier part, customer part. Are those two broad components?
No. There can also be regulatory agency facing. So now, remember regulatory agency to, like, for us in healthcare, Ministry of Health side, or maybe the agency like an health insurance agency facing side of the portal. Don't forget that what each person will be seeing will be different, right? Would have different user interfaces that would have their own, what are the key goals they are after. Now, sometimes, apart from the member facing, the business facing, the regulatory agency facing, sometimes senior leadership, maybe your executive governor, the commissioner for trade and stuff, would also want to have a whole dashboard where they can also track everything that every other person is seeing. So that would be like stakeholder facing, stakeholder dashboard now. That's also another view. So, but in most cases, it's usually the business facing and the member facing. That's the customer facing. But if there is the presence of very high level stakeholder, government, regulatory agencies, every other independent teams that may just be a major stakeholder that is involved in the project, they may also demand that they want some access. And in that access, they also want this, and these things to be what they want to track. So in that case, you would have to create a face for them. And each of those things becomes an independent epic on their own.
So I'm looking at it from I'm being approached right now as an Agile project manager, or Scrum Master, for example, to help develop a particular software, maybe a customer core bank application software, for example, that's in the bank, and then there's need for us. So I'm looking at it from, so the first thing that I have to think about is that this will probably have 2 sides: the sides that have to do with the banks and the sides that has to do with the customers. So that tells me that what are those that the features to be on has to do with banks. So, and in terms of customer onboarding, data security, cash transfer processing, and all of that side. That while I'm looking at the customer the customer will now be okay. How do I use USS or do transfer on my phone, buy data, do some form of that gives me, that's the understanding, right? So there will always be those two phases. So it now depends on what the project is about and what the requirements is all about. So, but those two phases are constant. Is that what you're trying to say, sir?
Perfect. Any project you have, the
Okay.
business facing side and the
Okay.
customer facing side will be there. Yeah. Now, in this case, the business side is the bank, right? The other side is the customer to the bank, right? The bank customer.
Yes.
But don't forget that even in
Yes.
the bank, just like you said, there are different units in the bank. So on the business side, you could have the marketing team.
Yes.
You could have the operations team. And each one needs to see differently. They need to see different things. On the member side, you could have the individual customer, and then you could have the corporate customers. Are you following?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you could have that also. So in a scenario where you have all those critical areas, those are the things that will determine how many epics you would have and how you want to divide it. And that's why I said the first thing is to understand what the project you want to deliver is. So let me go to my slide. I think that would help us a little more then.
Okay, sir.
You can see my
Thank
slide
you.
right away, right? Creating project
You are
vision.
seeing the board.
Oh, you're still seeing the board? Okay, let me stop sharing
Yes.
and then reshare. Sharing, we close the window here, continue. Okay, let me close this. Okay, and then share. All right, you should see it's popping up now.
Yes, it's coming. Yes, I have it
Excellent.
now.
Excellent. So yeah, these phases would help you understand all the questions you're asking now. Now, remember there is a project vision. The project vision is we want to create a core banking solution. And the core banking solution, we want it to be able to satisfy withdrawals, savings, just name it, loans, interest calculation, save customer details, send customer SMS. All this must have been stated in the definition of what we want. Sorry, I'm trying to look for my keynote. I want it to be able to write, but it's not bringing it for me. Just a moment. Why am I not having it? Which corner of the board are you? Sorry, it changes the corner from time to time. I don't know. Okay, let me move it to full presentation mode. Maybe that will help. Okay, yeah, it's here. Let me use purple. Okay, this is the one I'm talking about now. Great project vision. So in the project vision, I once told you about something called BRD. I don't know if you remember, Business Requirement Document.
Requirements document, yes.
This is very crucial to every project you want to do. The reason why it is crucial is that it's the one that will detail, okay, we want to create a core banking application. Abi, now this application, we want it to be able to take care of customer registration. We want it to be able to take care of customer savings. You want it to be able to take care of customer, this is registration, this is savings, withdrawals. Are you with me? We want it to be able to take care of loan, even or maybe loan application first, and then loan disbursement.
Yes, sir.
Do you get me? I want it to be able to take care of, even if customer wants to withdraw, customer withdrawal. Are we together? I want it to be able to give me all the membership list. Do you understand? These are the breakdown of everything that we want this core banking application to be able to do. Do we want it to be able to send email and SMS? Okay, then email and SMS notification to our customer. any other thing you want, like a feature that you want to be in this. Now, when we list all these things, we can now agree that, okay, because the platform we will use can take care of most of these things. So that means the IT guys that you're submitting the BRD to will read through this BRD. They will now think about, do we have a platform that is already pre-created by us? There are maybe one or two features are just missing that we can write code to add those, or we want to create the platform afresh from new. If they want to create it afresh from new, writing code for each of these things, and then developing the, remember, there will be the UI interface, that's the front side. There will be the back end, which is where the code base will be, right? But don't forget, because this thing deals with data, then there will be a connection to a database. And don't forget, because this is now dealing with a database, a backend, and a UI, then we need a security architecture that will be able to protect this whole system. So now we're thinking about the user interface, or where the user experience will be. We're thinking about the back-end coding platform that we will use to write the code. We're thinking about the database. The headache is, how will this back-end be able to pull data from the database and be able to represent it on the user interface? How will this UI be able to feed so the back-end queries the database gives it to the UI. But how do we ensure security of this whole process? Those are the thinking that goes through in everybody's mind when you come with a business requirement document with a project vision. The project vision is, we've been using paper before. We want to create a core banking application so that we won't use ledger and passbook and all those things again. And such that everyone can log in online anywhere in the world to see it, instead of having to call the chairman or the treasurer or the secretary to know what their balance is, to know what their withdrawal status is, to know what their loan application step is, or to know if their loan has been disbursed, or to collect their membership details, or to be able to receive email and SMS. Now, you said you want a core banking application. In my mind, I'm already thinking about all this. This user interface, only under user interface alone, I'm thinking the cooperative side must have user interface. Customer must have user interface. Ministry of Cooperative must have their user interface. Maybe someone high up in the executive, the governor, is interested, must have his own different user interface that's different from every other. So when I'm employing my UI designer, he's building user interfaces for all this. The guy that is writing the backend code is also thinking about all these four people in his own thinking. The database will be constant, because it will just have data for all these things. But we need to write SQL code that will be able to query, that will be able to pull different things to the user interface of each of these people. But I also need a security infrastructure that can protect everything that I'm building. So the essence of a project vision is that it gives us the holistic picture. When we now see this headache, we now say, okay, which one can we start first? Okay, we can start with registration and savings first. So we can put this under Epic 1. Now you see that we're breaking down the whole features into Epic right now, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We can now say, okay, after we're done with this, withdrawal and loan, we can put that into Epic 2. We can now decide to get different squads and say, if we want to deliver this thing at the same time in 6 months, then we need 1, 2, 3, 4 squads. 4 squads of developer to be employed. So that one squad is handling Epic 1. Another squad is handling Epic 2. Another squad is handling Epic 3. So each of these squad will have their own Scrum Master, Product Owner, and name it, development team, which will include quality assurance people and release manager. This one will have his own Scrum Master, Product Owner, like that. This one will have his own Scrum Master, Product Owner. This one will have his own Scrum Master, Product Owner. Now, because every of this delivery must work together, that is the reason why we all say there's someone called the release manager. The release manager must have an oversight on each of the releases from each of these different areas, so that he is now the one coordinating the release. The day of deployment is the release, so that by the time everyone is deploying, all the 4 areas are integrated together. So that's the work of a release manager. You hear them call them release train engineer. The reason why it's a train is that the sprints for each of these groups must be the same. So it's like 4 different trains moving together, and there's a release manager coordinating the train to ensure that everybody arrives at the destination at the same time. So the release manager will have an overall meeting with all the Scrum Master and product owner every week or every 2 weeks to ensure that everybody is aligned. And if someone is slowing down, they will help the person up so that they can keep up with the timeline that they have set. So when you hear me say I work on some project where we have 26 squads, so you can imagine how big the project is, and now we have broken it down to be able to have 26 squad. Now in that 26 squad, we may have like 7 Scrum Masters. So in my current project now, I'm handling 3 squads. And sometimes, because I'm in healthcare, right, my squad can be care management, utilization management. Are we together? It can be health information exchange. It can be long-term care. Sometimes it can be HCS, healthcare services. It can just be anything. Just imagine there will be a breakdown from the healthcare processes. Sometimes it can be pharmacy. Sometimes it can be nursing care, nursing services. So just imagine all those breakdowns. The same thing in finance. Your own may be marketing. So another person's own may be operations. Another person's own may be, maybe even in operation, there's some breakdown. There is what the senior staff will see. Maybe the full staff of the bank will see, which will be different from what an IT in the bank will see. You can't give the same user interface to an IT, and even the teller officer will see something different. And then they call a full staff of the bank will see something different. So all these user accesses are different things that will be broken down under these epics for each person. So when you have a complex project, your job as the Agile project manager is to first sit down with the business and come up with a business requirement document. That is why in most cases you will need a business analyst, you will need a product owner, you will need a subject matter expert, and then you will need yourself as the Agile project manager. The 4 of you will sit down with the business stakeholders of business, and then you will come up with this BRD explaining in details everything you want. Now, if there are regulatory requirements that are needed, then you will come up with all the regulatory interfaces here too. So, a core banking application must be regulated by CBN in Nigeria. Maybe there's another ministry, which is an arm of the federal government, apart from CBN, maybe Federal Ministry of Banking and something, or Ministry of Finance. They may also say they are interested. Ministry of Finance, they want to understand everything you're doing. You would also have an application or a way to feed. Sometimes CBN already has its own application. All they will ask you is that, can you expose one API for us so that we will call for that API anytime we need a detail from you? So that means you have to build an API that CBN platform will be able to call on to be able to extract data to their hand.
Yes.
So all these are the details that must be in your business requirement document once you have the clear vision. So the vision is what births this. This is what we want to achieve. You now sit down with the team and come up with this. So this is the job of many people, but you as an Agile project manager is the one who coordinates this. Trust me, the current project I'm on, we spent 2 months trying to come up with business requirement document.
Wow.
2 months.
Wow.
After you now come up with the business requirement document, we will now start breaking them down. You now have to form a Scrum team, because a whole team that will run the Scrum. That's when you now have your development team and all those ones. Now, you now have to split everything into different epics. I've done that, right? I've splitted them into different epics. So even this one that I'm saying, this is epic 1, you will be surprised. Registration alone can be epic 1. Because registration alone will now be the registration for all members. But there are 2 kinds of members, like I've mentioned. There are individual accounts, right? There are corporate accounts. Under individual account, they can split them again and say low income earners account, medium income earners account, high income earners account. Under corporate, they can
have existing members, new members, and all
God bless you. All those things are different things. Under corporate now, they can say corporate retail, corporate wholesale, corporate manufacturing, corporate maybe warehousing, corporate, you could have corporate anything. And all these ones will have their own different user interfaces. So even this epic that we think is just epic 1 can become a major. And even corporate alone can be the epic that we now have to break down into so many stories. So now you see the reason why for huge project, there are many hands on it. Right from the release train engineer, the Agile project leads and different ranks, up till you have a Scrum Master or a PM. Everybody's monitoring different things. So now the next thing is we now need to create a prioritized backlog. We now need to prioritize what are the key things that we need to first deliver. That's where I mentioned the Moscow model one time, if you remember. Moscow. Must have, should have, could have, and would have. Must have, should have. For any core banking application, it must have registration page. For any core banking application, it must have a savings page. It must have a withdrawal page because people will pay money and someday they will come back and withdraw from the money.
Yes, sir.
It must have a loan application page. So now, but out of all these, which one is now the priority that we must deliver first? Okay, registration is the first priority. So let's go after registration. Then we break down all these features of registration and how do we register all these different areas. Then that's when they now say conduct a release planning. The reason why release planning is the last thing here is now you see that by the time you break down into different areas, the guy who is the release manager now needs to think through how do we ensure that if we say our go live date is December 31, 2025, if we say every three weeks is our sprint, the whole 1 year space we have is 52 weeks. 52 divided by 3. 52 in 3 places. Is it 13?
That's like 17.
Thank you.
That's 13.5.
So the guy will now tell you, I have 17 sprints. Out of these 17 sprints, the guy will now say, okay, I want to break this down into every 4 sprints. I want to call it a PI. Is what we call program increments, where we'll all come and touch base and replan where we are at and where we are going. Because every 4 sprint, each sprint has its own sprint planning. But all of us, all these people will come into a meeting every 4 weeks so that we will check where we are at, where we are going, and if we'll be able to meet with this 17th sprint. That is where the work of this guy comes in, the release manager. So he's the one that does the release planning. And it touches base with every team every week to know what are you delivering and how everything would align and pull up together at the end of the day. So that's the reason why as a Scrum Master, your job is not only to your team narrowly, is also responsible to this guy, the release plan manager, because you have to attend all these meetings to be sure how another team is depending on your own. If registration is not done, there's no way savings can complete his work. If registration is not done, withdrawal cannot complete his work. If savings is not done, withdrawal cannot exist.
At all.
If savings is not done, loan cannot exist.
No.
So everyone is now depending on registration. So registration becomes the major priority. Once registration is done, everyone now starts depending on savings. Membership details depend on proper registration. Email and SMS depends on proper registration. Customer withdrawal depends on customer savings. And in fact, customer registration first. So let me show you something. Let me see if I can. I'm coming just a moment. Let me see if it would open. Okay, do you want me to keep this? Okay, keep. Okay. I want to see. Let me try and see if it would log in here. Oops, 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 oops. History. Just a moment. So I want to use that to explain something to you. Maybe, perhaps it would help visualize. I know you have seen different platforms. So let me say, okay, enter, submit. Okay, what can you see on the screen currently?
Just the board that we're using.
Just the
Discuss.
black.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, just a moment. I want to just share something briefly. I don't know why it's not popping up okay. Okay, so Zoom. Yeah, sometimes Zoom can play funny. Okay. Okay, stop sharing. Okay, then reshare. So I'll just show you something briefly. I would minimize the details that I'm exposing. It's a live platform that we're currently working on. It's a finance platform that my team has built. And that's my team at Valdymas Intelligence. But I'll just minimize the exposure.
Mm.
Can you see this platform now? So just
Yes.
imagine this as a test platform. In this finance platform, just like a core banking application you're talking about, this is finance. This is savings. This is withdrawals. This is loan. This is membership. This is administration. These are groups.
Mm.
Now, each of these will be worked on by different people. Do you understand? In a very huge project. Imagine if we have membership of like 10 million or even 1 million. So you can see that so it's a different, and this finance page may just be the leaders that wants this finance page so that they can see what's the current total member, what's the
Yeah.
current total savings, and what's our
Yeah.
current total income.
So this becomes like the dashboard.
This becomes like a dashboard. Excellent. And in that, they want a page on the same page. They want to be able to display. Sorry, don't want to expose customer details. So they want to get what the income is and what the expenses are. It's because I'm recording. That's why I want to minimize exposure.
Yes,
Sorry.
it's all right, sir.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fine.
So you can see income and then you can see expenses on the same page. So it's a team. It might just be a team that will be working on all this page. So they will build the UI interface and they will build the back end feature that will link with the database that will be able to extract details to this dashboard. And you can see it's showing you the admin, the groups, the loans, the withdrawals, and the expenses. Another team will work on savings. Another team will work on withdrawals.
Right.
Do you understand? Another team work on withdrawals. Another team will work on loan. Another team work on the whole membership details.
Mm.
And
Mm.
they all have to release together on the same day.
The same day. Mm. Mm.
Now you see why it's a complex project, why you need everyone organized together. With this visual now, you can understand why banking application always come with issues. GT Bank just moved platform of recent and it threw a lot of us into chaos.
Yes.
I'm sure till today we're still struggling, but
Yes.
it's a lot better. So the idea is I could understand because I know the trouble from the back end. Now
Mm.
the more terrible issue is when your database isn't feeding properly into your UI through the back end, and that's where the issues will be, where they will now have to as in run so many queries to check what's happening, load data, do a lot of mock in what we call the lower environment. So we always talk about lower environment. I would stop sharing this now, but I just brought this so that you can understand what I'm saying. So I'll stop sharing this
Yes.
and go
Yes.
back to my initial slide. Where are you? Okay, here, share. Okay. Now there's something that we call the lower environment where is okay. So there's something we usually call lower environment. Okay, maybe I should move to the next slide to minimize the lower environment. So depending on maybe like the team is using AWS as their development platform, development and release platform. Do you understand? That's Amazon Web Services now. That's what we have agreed to use as a team. Now on this thing page, there will be what they will call the dev page. There will be the QA page. There will be the UAT page. There will be the page where they call staging or where they do performance testing. And then there will be a stage that we'll call deploy into production. This is what we call live. This is when the project is live, right? Are we still together?
Yes.
Excellent. So on their development page, this is where they write all the codes. They write the codes, they test the codes, and then they deploy it into QA. For quality assurance team, here, the kind of testing they do more is what we call the unit testing. What they do is they already have the main branch of the code initially that has been pre-written, that is existing. What they do is they try to create a separate branch, and then once they are done, they match the branch. When they match the branch, they do unit testing, integration testing. Once it aligns well, they deploy to QA. QA team will say, okay, when you got the business requirement document, BRD, you said these are the expected behavior of the platform. We will test if those expected behavior are exactly what happens. So that is, if I impute 10,000 naira into the platform, I expect the total savings to increase by 10,000. If I say someone withdraws 15,000, I expect the total savings to reduce by 15,000. If we say someone is collecting a loan of 1 million naira, okay, I expect the loan total to increase by 1 million. If the person pays back 500,000 naira, I expect the loan platform to reduce the loan by. So the QA team will now do all those kind of tests. They will create several what we call test cases or test scenarios. Are we together?
Yes.
So they will create all those and then ensure that everything works as planned. When it now works, they will now send it to user acceptance. That's where we call you, Mr. Charles, and say, the representative of the ministry of this thing. We need 4 people who will give UAT access to come and test what we have built. You will now come. You will do all the forms of manipulations that can happen on a real life scenario. You will do those testing. Once you are satisfied, you say, okay, approved. You move it. We will now come back and say, okay, we have a team that we call the performance testing team or the staging in the staging environment. Staging environment is the closest environment to the live environment. That's why they call it staging. Here, what we will do is we will now load our database with 5 million data. Remember, I used to mention this, and it's crucial to all your development. They will load with 5 million data, and they will expect you to do different manipulation and see how well your backend is able to pull data from this database and bring it to the user interface. And how quickly, how fast, how quickly is there exactly what is expected that is being done. So this is like what we call load testing or performance testing. All these environments are usually called lower environments.
Okay.
This is the upper environment when you're in production. So when you hear us in IT saying, did you do a test in lower environment? What happened when you tested in lower environment? In another case, you could hear the word lower application or lower environment application. That's different from this lower environment. Lower environment application could also mean, because I need to clarify that in case. Let's say in one of my applications, there's one application we call Q. This Q is the one that when the state government sends us data. Do you understand? And I mean data of maybe 30,000 or 40,000 people. When the government sends us data, we load it into Q. Q is now the one that distributes to C, application C. There's also another application U. I'm just using the first letter of those applications for confidentiality sake. Yeah.
Yes.
It leads into application U. There's another application after U that you can decide to send to. It's called X. There's another application here that is called A. This C loads into A, and C can also load into L. Are you with me? Then this also loads into another application called S. Now, if we say, if I now come and I now say, so Mr. Charles, I learned that the state has sent us data of 1 million users last weekend. Have they been loaded into downstream application? All these applications will be downstream. This is the upstream application. So sometimes you would have data in upstream, you would have data even up to this, but data will not be appearing here. The people here will be screaming and shouting. Do you understand? We now need to come and trace. Did the data get to this? If it gets to this, that means the problem is not here. If it does not get to C, then that means we'll come here. Now you need to know the application owners for all of these people. And you'll be pursuing all those application owners around. So those are just to explain when I say lower environment or downstream application or upstream. So they could use all those technical terms, and it's also worthwhile if you use them in interview. And so we had these downstream applications, and I was working on the upstream, this application. You understand? And my downstream application weren't receiving data because there was a data gap. Maybe the informatical pipeline you're using did not push data from here to here. So there may be a breakage in the SQL code that is pulling data from here. Or maybe the timelines, or maybe something. There are different reasons why data will not get pulled. And then you have to bring in the application owners, and then they need to check the SQL query and check why data is not being pulled into C, and then from C to A. All right, so that explains this. So we go back to, we go back to the initial slide. Now, the next thing after you have planned all your release planning, I hope you can still see my screen. Maybe I should clean this a little.
Yes.
Where's the eraser? Eraser. Oh, why are you not working? Oh. Oh, my eraser isn't working. Oh, why? Erase all ink is, I don't know why the eraser isn't peaking, but let me try again. Oh, it's not. Maybe because I saved it the other time I was going. I can do something. Let me stop sharing. Erase it on the slide properly and just tell it clean up. How do I delete you? Delete. Okay, great. So I'm back. So let me reshare. Okay. The next thing you can see is now create use. Oh, no. Why are you this sensitive now? The next thing you can, oh, okay. I get the reason. This thing is just getting too sensitive on me. Yeah, go back, go back, go back. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just driving. Mm-mm. Sorry. Stop sharing. Let's get you back to normal order. Okay. Then start sharing. Share. Okay. All right then. Mm-mm. Why are you doing this? Okay, so share. Okay. Something is wrong. Just between.
Maybe you can close the
I think that's the. I don't
you
know
can
why.
close the slide and then reopen it.
Okay, I'll do something first. This is what we'll do. Okay. So just between the stop share and this thing, it's flipping me back. Um, Okay, I'm back. Oops. Oh, damn. Stop sharing. Then I have to close the PowerPoint. Yeah, discard. Don't save. I eventually had to follow what you said. So recent. Okay. Slide 56, thereabout. Okay, I don't know why the slide is. Okay, slide 150. Can you see my screen? What are you seeing?
I can see Valdymas Intelligence.
Oh no, that's not what I intend you to see. Okay, so zoom, share. Okay, share. Okay, now we're good, right? Uh, Excellent. You can still create user stories.
Yes.
So we have done project vision. We have identified the team and business stakeholder. We have formed the Scrum teams that will be used. We've developed all the epics. We've created a priority. We now know what our release plan is. We know that what we're delivering must be ready by December 31, 2025. So we know we have 1 year, 1 month. And we have planned every of our PIs. So between this, maybe we have 5 PIs. PI is all those every 4 sprints that we decide to be meeting. Those are PIs after every 4 sprints. each sprint might be 3 weeks. Of course, I said divide by 3. So each sprint is 3 weeks. After every 4 sprint, we'll come all together to do a program increment plan, PI planning. So 3 weeks times 4, that means every 12 weeks. That's 3 months. We'll come together and do some PI planning on our go live goal. Now, for each of the sprints, since we have 3 weeks, we need to create user stories that will fill into the sprint. And the most important thing to create a user story is the concept of estimation. And I remember explaining to you the estimation of X, XL, XXL. It's that you use the t-shirt sizing, or I say you use the Fibonacci sequence. Yes. You remember that, right?
Yes.
Okay, and the Fibonacci sequence is 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. 13 plus 21, that will be 34. 34 plus 21, that will be 55. 55 plus, that will be 89, and so on. So as a Scrum Master, once my development lead names anything 13, 21, and above, I'm already worried about that story. Do you know why? I mean, there is a very high chance we will not finish it in one sprint.
Okay.
Do you understand? So that already makes me ask the right question. So, dev lead, is this an ongoing story that you want to keep so that by the time it spans over 2 to 3 stories, we'll be able to complete it, but you want to start it early? And if they answer me, say yes, okay, then we'll do that. We'll leave it. We'll bring it in. Or let's break it down into further stories. Do you understand? That means it might be a bigger story that we need to break down into a story. Now, for some, because they are not broken down, because you cannot break them down, you can now say, okay, let's split it into 3 tasks. So there's one of my current projects. We now said, okay, the first issue is that we need a query from team C. The other one is we need another query from team U. If team C and U now brings the query together from 2 different sources, do you understand? We now need team E to come and help us match these 2 queries together and create a Power BI dashboard, which is the requirement for this story. Do you now understand? So what we decided to do is that we now broke this down into 3 tasks. Task 1, task 2, task 3. Another option would have been, let's say we have not reached requirement freeze and we identify this. We can say we're breaking this down into 3 stories. So each one will just be stories. And we now make them dependent on themselves. This one will be dependent on these 2. Is that okay? So that's what we do in most cases. So sometimes when requirement freeze has happened and you cannot break down a story again, then you split them into tasks or you create subtasks under them. But if you have not reached requirement freeze and you still want to split them into further stories, you can do it. You can just make this a story.
What is requirement freeze, sir?
Great question. So stakeholders too are very smart because there's an amount of money we have earmarked for this project. Both the stakeholder and developer would have reached an agreement that the total business estimated capacity we can carry is like 500 user stories. It will be like the negotiating agreement between the stakeholder and the development lead, the dev team, the IT leads. Yes. Do you understand? And we have agreed that, okay, this is a $10 million project. So because of that, the total number of user stories will be around 400 from previous experience of projects. It will be an estimated. Now, we'll now say the first 2 months when we're writing project vision and breaking them down into user story and grooming them, we'll open it up until everything is created. Once everything has been created, we'll all agree, okay, I'll give you 1 more week for requirement freeze. At that point, you cannot add any new thing again. Remember, I was listing all the features I want on my application: savings, loan, withdrawal, SMS, email, maybe phone call, this thing. You just keep listing. At a point, I will tell you, no, we have reached requirement freeze. You can't add any requirement again on this project. Once all this has been locked in, then, and you have broken them down into user stories, even among, even in SMS, it's complex that you can say we only send SMS to numbers that are from a certain region. If it's SMS to an international number, it won't go. So a requirement freeze can say we can't send to international number. So it's only focused on local.
Okay.
Maybe you now want to bring that, no, you should be able to send to international, because most of my guys, I have 10,000 of the 20,000 member in the US or US and UK.
So we can think of, we can think of requirement freeze as those requirements that are being demanded, but not necessarily important to the project. And if accommodated, will likely overstretch the project.
Perfect. That's one excellent way to look at it. But it can also be that if you don't quickly stop them, the business, from bringing further requirement, your development team will not finish this project in December 2025. Because if you keep allowing them to come and add new things, because initially they just said they want to be sending SMS and you have agreed. Now they've told you SMS is to US and UK alone. Look, business will come back next tomorrow and say, no, we have forgotten. We even have 200 people in Australia, 500 people in Canada. Can we add them? Let's say you're even nice enough and you accommodate that. They will now come next tomorrow and say, we have some businesses in India.
So, sir, what happens to the iterative and incremental principle, which is the reason why we're using Scrum in the first place?
Excellent. But in reality, where you say we must accommodate any new changes, even late in development, right? Is that your question?
Exactly my point. Because we have done this and we've given it to them to test, and they found out that, look, after they are testing, they now realize that this thing need to have some new requirements, into it and all of that. Are we saying we need to apply the requirement freeze clause, so to say, in that situation?
This thing uses money and blood. So ultimately, it still boils down to money, because the sustainability of your development team is also a money-based system. What would happen is that if you keep allowing business to bring in new requirements, when will you be able to create a new BRD that you'll be able to use to charge them?
Okay. So at the end of the day, it's business.
It's a business. And it's also human effort that is being used. That's why I said money and blood.
So what happens in a situation, sir, that because it's not part of the original requirements, but it's now critical to the stakeholders, and we now come back to negotiation to say, okay, because you are bringing this new requirement, X amount of dollars or naira will be added to what you've done, and X number of time will also be added to the completion deadline that we already have before. Is that a possibility?
God bless you. That's what we call a CR, a change request. So you issue a change request, you come with the difference in the money and the new requirements. And that's the business side to this whole thing. So even though we accommodate anything late in development, it will come with a CR. And if the enhancement, if the new requirement they are bringing is so big, we'll say, no, we can't take a CR, we'll complete this project, create a new SOW, and let's have a new project after we close this.
Okay.
So SOW is for new project, CR is a change request on the original SOW. That was approved.
Based on the requirements that we believe we can accommodate.
Excellent. And that is why during that business requirement document writing and the initial grooming of the user story, we tell business, tell us everything you want now. But you see, the reality is business too doesn't know everything they want per time.
Exactly my point.
So
because
it is when
I can tell you
Okay.
When we're developing the app with Wema Bank,
Okay.
their first presentation, the demo they came to do for us, that was when we realized that we were supposed to change the payment structure. We're supposed to integrate some payment solutions. We're supposed to create an audit interface. We're supposed, so that it was that very first presentation that gave us those ideas that all of these now have to come in. So that's why I agree with you that sometimes the stakeholders may not really know everything they want until they are done, until those presentations are done or something.
Let me even bust your bubble. Sometimes it is during user acceptance testing. User acceptance testing. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. I've removed that slide. Remember, I told you there's development, there's QA, and then
Yes.
there's UAT, and then there's
Yes.
performance testing
Yes.
before deployment into life. It
Yes.
is during this phase that they will remember that they need some requirements. Can the application do something for us? If it's something that can be accommodated with just a configuration change or maybe some little this thing adjustment in code, the dev team can quickly accommodate that if it won't be more than a day or two of a code editing and all those. But if it's going to be a big idea, we'll tell them, please contact the dev team business lead. Let's create a new CR if it's crucial. That's why you see everybody summoning everybody into meeting and say, we forgot. Or sometimes business will try to push it on the development team and say, no, he's the project manager. We told him from the beginning. And that's why you, as the Agile project manager, you must be very smart and very tough too. As much as you're nice, that's why documentation of every meeting, agreement from meetings,
Very crucial.
would save you a lot of this thing. So what I used to do is I write meeting notes and I basic highlights from the meeting are the crucial thing I focus on. You understand? And it has saved me a couple of times. So I understand the details of that. Because they'll now say, okay, no, the meeting we had in May, we said that we will need this. We'll now go to the minute of that meeting. If we cannot find it there, and thank God I shared the minute of the meeting with everybody, and I said, please, if I miss out anything, kindly respond. So since you didn't respond, that means I didn't miss out anything. And that means you did not say it.
Mm.
So they will now want to put you into this thing and say it was a requirement miss from the project team. Instead of them agreeing that they are the ones that did not submit that as part of the initial thing. Then we'll now go and say, where is the BRD for this project? That's when you hear everybody saying, where's the BRD for this project? That's the day you will know that that BRD is an important document. Now, when you read through the BRD, if you find it there, then it's the miss from the project. If you don't find it there, then it's a miss from the business.
Mm.
If it's a miss from the business, then the business will be ready for the project team to create a CR, and then they will add more money, and then we extend the time. But if it's a miss from the project, then the project team would have to absorb it without any change request. Do you understand all this now?
Absolutely.
So those are the realities that come with all this project. In fact, let me just say, once you can understand everything on this slide that I have before me, you already understand. And that's why it's the summary of the fundamental of Scrum process. And that's why I'm taking my time to explain them. So now you commit the user story to a sprint. You identify the task, you estimate the task, and you update your sprint backlog. All these are what we've discussed under sprint. Then the next thing will now be deliverables. What are the key things you want to deliver per time? Okay, complete user interface for member by this time. Complete registration backend for member by this time. So that when we go to a demo, we can demo someone being registered and their details being pulled up to the UI. That's a critical deliverable. We can now have like 10 deliverables like that on the project. The member, maybe the marketing team, the operations team, interface, delivery, All those deliveries, we'll now mention them and put timeline to them. That's why we create this, and then we conduct daily stand-up to focus towards this, achieving this. So that's the whole process of the software development, from creating a project vision up until you're able to release. And then after each release, ship deliverable means you deploy to life. And then retrospective is now when the team will sit down and ask themselves questions. What did we do better? What can we do more? And all those things. And then you document everything. So understanding this whole concept is, and don't forget, it's also a business. So there's a business side to this, and that's where the role of the stakeholders come in, to manage the human and the business part of this whole thing, and then the business environment. All right, any questions?
No, I think this is very clear. I can send you a message. I sent a chat.
Oh, really? Yeah, let me see if I can read the chat. Okay, stop sharing. Chat. Oh, okay. Please. Yeah, let's wrap up. I'm good. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I would upload this video as done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.